Hey everyone, welcome to Patriot Soapbox. I'll give you my commentary on the news of the day as reported by the Wall Street Journal. So first up, the Remain in Mexico program is in full effect as the U.S. is moving asylum seekers to Texas from other places because Texas is the main place that they're deporting them from. I mean, it makes sense. Texas, all of the four states that border Mexico, California, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas, it has the longest border. But it's also, if you think about the hardest place to build, like to figure out where to build the wall, because it's the Rio Grande. So what I mean is, like Rio Grande, if you think about it, is an actual boundary and clearly defines the border. And in fact, it did. That's why they chose it as the border between Texas and Mexico because it's a clear boundary. Like that was back in 1845 they decided that. But the problem is, like back then the Rio Grande went up, like it goes up into America, and they decided the boundary before the Southwest became part of the United States. And so, if we were building a wall across the river, then would the entire Rio Grande be included in the U.S. side? Would they cut across the Rio Grande to make let's put it on the Mexican side, just leave it open and put barbed wire on the U.S. side to make sure that no one came through that? I don't know. But yeah, it is definitely a tricky thing to figure out. And there's a chart here showing the ad strategies of several political candidates in at least the Iowa TV ads, because Iowa has the first primaries and therefore most states are gunning for Ohio, or at least initially. So in this, it shows different size circles for different days depending on the amount of ads run, like 50, 50 and below, 51 to 100, and 101 to 150. And it colors the circles red if they mention impeachment, blue if they're anti-Trump, and gray if they're neither. So Buttigieg looks like he's been running by far the most ads in in Iowa, which explains his surge upward in the polls there. I mean, most of them are neutral. Most of them are about him, not anti-Trump. He has a few anti-Trump ones. Elizabeth Warren's barely even trying. Trump's trying harder, but not as much. And then Bernie Sanders is second only to Buttigieg, but he's running a lot more anti-Trump ads. Warren's kind of like split on the Trump ads and ads about herself, and then Joe Biden mainly anti-Trump ads. So it just shows how they're campaigning. Like Buttigieg is mainly focusing on himself, which I think is a better campaign strategy because it's not enough to just tell people why the other guy sucks. You have to say why you're so much better. So there's more. There's an article here about how John Bolton says his Twitter account was blocked. He's claiming that President Trump blocked his Twitter account after he got fired as a national security advisor, which is ridiculous because it's Twitter who has control over who's blocked, not Trump. So, just yet another disgraced advisor seeking attention. Then there's another article saying that something that we could probably already guess, but that some presidential candidates actually don't like the impeachment hearings, or at least the fact that they're so publicized, because it draws away from the campaign. So a lot of at the presidential debate, the debate was pretty much like overshadowed by impeachment. I think that was like the first question that was asked. Like all the senators there, so Warren, Booker, Sanders, they're all asked if they would vote to convict Trump if he were impeached, and they all of course said yes. But the whole impeachment thing has overshadowed the debate so much so like I didn't even hear about the debate until like a few days before it happened, because as the impeachment thing was the main thing taking up airtime on TV and taking up newspaper space. So there was like no space to say, hey, the debate's coming up. So yeah, and they have expressed like the fact that they don't like it too much because it draws away from them, and that is a valid concern. I mean, it's the whole spectacle put on by Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and their media cronies, and now the candidates aren't getting a whole lot of airtime, which I think is pretty bad. I mean, I don't like any of the Democratic candidates, as you probably could guess, but we should at least put on TV just so they can air their ideas. Maybe they'll slip up, and then everyone will think they're an idiot and not vote for them. But still, at least they get the airtime. But no, the impeachment has to drown out everything because it's impeachment. It's supposed to be a grave political event, but we all know that doesn't happen. Then hopping over the op-ed section, one titled "Don't Panic Over Facebook and Twitter." So the main focus is on people think fake news concerns, privacy concerns, etc., etc., etc. First off, Facebook doesn't care of the embarrassing text message you sent your girlfriend or embarrassing or inappropriate photos you may have saved on your phone. That has no commercial value to them. What they care about is like what you're buying on Amazon or what you have in your shopping what you have in your shopping cart. That's what these companies care about. What you're buying, or like other characteristics that could affect like how what advertisers want to sell you. Like insurance. A while back, there's an article saying that insurance companies are trying to gain access into people's social media records, so they can see if they're doing anything stupid to maybe increase their rates. That's what people care. That's what they care about. Like McDonald's isn't gonna care if you post something about you liking fast food because that means they can sell you more fast food. They're not gonna care if you send like about anything embarrassing on your phone. That's because most of it has like no commercial value. They're like the advertisers can't get you to buy any of their stuff. Facebook won't get paid by those advertisers, and so why bother, right? Then, so mainly like a lot of overblown fears about technology. Like most of this is not going to happen. Like it's not like we live in China or Turkey where you can be killed for doing the wrong thing. It's like the government's not in charge here. It's just a company that's trying to make money. So they're not gonna. It's not like they'll rat you out. Then about when it comes to fake news, come on. Political ads have ads in general have some element of falsehood, right? Because they gotta they have to pad their resume, so to speak. I mean, how else they can't just how else are they gonna get you to buy a product or vote for a candidate? So they've always been partly or completely lies. So like trying to regulate fake news is just not gonna happen. It just won't work. And that he also points out that like, a lot of like the radical liberals online are white people trying to make assumptions about supposedly marginalized groups. So they're the ones causing a lot of uproar over certain things and posting all these fake news stories. And of course they're going to do that. They have the platform to do so. So yeah, but all in all, it's just the main point is Facebook and Twitter don't care about a lot of stuff that people think they care about. They care about what's going to earn money. That like a lot of the stuff that people are worried about them finding, it's not going to work. Then, but back into the economic issues. The California has they have a bit of a revenue surplus, believe it or not. Like you wouldn't think that California has a revenue surplus. It just doesn't make any sense. It's California, but they have but a booming national economy means they somehow amassed a $20 billion surplus. Therefore, one of their main problems though is that they have one of the most volatile tax codes in the country because it's by and large based on taxing the rich. So if one rich person moves out, then their tax revenue suffers. That's how it works. But luckily, they got a lot of rich people. So like especially because of Hollywood. So I mean, they're fine as far as revenue goes until things get really bad and the rich people pack it and leave it like they're doing now. So the article basically asks the question: why do they have so many problems if they got a lot of if they have all this money? It's because that money gets spent very, very quickly. I mean, a lot of waste and a lot of first of all, rules and regulations to make it expensive. Like one affordable housing unit, just one unit costs $750,000 in California. That's twice as much as a 4,000 square foot house costs in Texas. 4,000 square feet, like double that cost, and you get a little unit of affordable housing in California. That's nuts. Then they also incentivize homelessness. They subsidize. They have a pretty expensive Medicaid, or as they call it, Medi-Cal program. They they've devoted $3 billion to homelessness and housing, and they still have the same problems. You think with all that revenue they could fix up PG&E and their electrical systems? Sadly, no, because regulations prevent and whatnot prevent it. They make it hard, not only hard to fix power plants, but also hard to clear out forests, because apparently having dead trees everywhere and brush makes it natural. Ignoring the fact that it also causes sweeping fires when so much as a lightning strike or some idiot drops a cigarette. So, but that's where some of the money's going in the power system. And the other places they're spending billions trying to combat climate change and make sure that fossil fuels are eventually exterminated in the state of California. Also, feudal gold. Not going to happen. So the issue is California may have a bunch of money, but they spend it very, very quickly. And all their laws and regulations and whatnot make that money do a whole lot less than it would, literally anywhere else in the country. But get this, Gavin Newsom actually says, and I quote, "California is what America is going to look like. The state is America's coming attraction," end quote. If what's happening in California right now happens to the rest of the U.S., I think that's a sign of a serious problem in in society and government, whatever the issue. If it becomes like California, it may be time to replace the government by any means necessary. Though, another op-ed from the editorial board criticizing Pete Buttigieg. The Wall Street Journal is just the latest of a bunch of people, because Buttigieg is soaring in the polls, especially in Iowa. So, of course, they're gonna try to criticize this guy because now he actually poses a threat. Maybe, but he's tried to capitalize before on his record as a mayor, which, to be fair, is a bit of an unusual record to just be mayor, and then before that an army officer. But here we are. I mean, Trump's like one of the few people. Trump's had like no political or military experience. I believe he's the only president like that in American history. So, I mean, hey, we got Trump. We can have, and like if his record's unusual, so is Buttigieg's. Perfect fit for changing times. But yeah, Buttigieg doesn't have that great of a record. Like, violent crime went up when he was in charge. He fired the first black police chief, then put a white guy from Massachusetts in charge, and then people don't like him and he had to resign. He being the police chief, not the mayor. He made cops wear body cameras and undergo implicit bias training, and also says that all of police work and all of American life takes place in the shadow of racism. That's an actual quote from him. So you can see why the police don't have good morale in South Bend, Indiana, because this guy thoroughly sucks at encouraging the police and actually discourages them. So his record isn't all that great. Then, and Elizabeth Warren is actually right about something for once. She actually thinks that Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela is a dictator. Bernie Sanders, by comparison, will refuse to call this guy a dictator, and whereas Warren actually does. And so when Warren's criticizing a left-wing guy, like a lot of American leftists loved initially, then maybe she's onto something, because like she's a progressive icon. So she wouldn't say something bad about this progressive guy unless he's like really bad, and he is. I mean, she's obviously like more dovish than hawkish when it comes to foreign policy, but hey, at least maybe President Warren, if in the rare chance that she wins, would stand up for other countries. Who knows? Finally, there's the myth of voter suppression. It's natural at the topic of voter suppression to come up with a debate, because it was in Atlanta, Georgia, and Georgia was like last year, allegedly, Republican voter suppression cost gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams the election, and allowed a Republican to win instead of her. And their evidence first is faulty, because black turnout actually was higher than white turnout in 2018. So that's one issue. The other is that they like to point to In fact, the Republicans in Georgia canceled 1.4 million voter registrations. But that's actually common procedure. It's called voter purging. If people don't vote in a while, then they start taking them off the voter roll list, because then that way they can get more accurate turnout figures. Like they're not going to count people as part of the electorate or include them in voter turnout statistics if they haven't voted like here it's in more than 7 years. And so they also even notify these people before they terminated their registrations. So it wasn't like they suppressed votes. And it says if they conspired to suppress minority turnout, the Republicans totally failed. And that's all I got for you on the weekend edition of Picture of Your Soapbox. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great daily content.